And there we go, we should be live. Hi everyone, and welcome to Trek Central Weekly, where we talk about the latest Star Trek episode that's come to us, with this week's episode being Strange New Worlds Episode 5, Spock Amok. And with me today, Dom, we have two special co-hosts who can introduce themselves now. Textra, you can start. Oh, but we've already got a new member.
Nice.
Which is
Nice.
Flavor Check,
Fleet
which
is
is
expanding.
Jill. So
Welcome,
thank you
Cadet
for
Flavor
joining. For those who don't know, you can join as a member to our YouTube channel, where you can get access to some lovely custom-made emojis, as well as some other stuff, which I believe we'll be coming out with in the future. But welcome, and I also have to say welcome to a member who joined before this stream started, which is Saint, with an E at the end, so Saint, however you pronounce your name. So welcome to the members, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll ask you questions at the end of the episode and be like, oh, you can, all that stuff. But Textrek, do you want to start?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I am father of the Text Trek podcast and YouTube channel. Follow me at TX Trek, and I am here to talk about some fantastic Star Trek today with my other good buddy over here, whichever way I'm pointing to.
Yes.
That would be Starfleet
I don't know
Boy.
which way.
That way.
Starfleet
Yes.
Boy.
Let's cover both of them. Dom and Starfleet Boy. Both my bases covered.
Hello, I'm Starfleet Boy. I'm 5'7", 44 years old, and single.
Ready to mingle.
Ready
Yep.
to mingle.
Just like Chapel in this episode.
Just like Chapel.
Hey.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's true.
And there we go. So, yeah, talking about this episode, this was definitely a different episode than we got last week for Strange New Worlds. Last week being very action, slightly like horror with the Gorn, and this week we go into comedy. And it's very... I think Strange New Worlds covers this change in tone, this change in genre of the episodes really well. And with this episode, we have this recurrent theme going through all the plots about empathizing with others and seeing things from others' perspectives. And as all these episodes go, the personal log of the character at the beginning of the episode is who this episode will be focusing on. So in this episode we have Spock. Now obviously we've got many Spock episodes through the 50 odd years of Star Trek, but what did you think about this episode and how it added to the character of Spock?
Which one is Spock again? I'm still trying to learn the names.
Oh,
of all
he's
these
the
characters.
human one.
Episodes.
I think he goes by Simon Grayson.
Oh, what is that a reference? I like that, Simon Grayson.
I think it's a reference
just
to
make that up?
No, it's a reference to a comic where there's like a human version of Spock and he's just called Simon Grayson.
Well, there's a
Ooh, I
human
love
version of
that.
Spock in this episode.
Yes.
Holy crap, is Dick Grayson related to the Graysons of Star Trek?
Maybe.
No.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we
Dr.
definitely
McCoy
started this
is
episode
related
interesting.
to Hank McCoy, Beast of the X-Men.
Okay.
Oh. Oh.
So for
We're
all
really
those
crossing
X-Men
over.
fans in the chat, there you go.
Dom, I'll just say that for me, I love Spock. He's one of my favorite characters. He was my imaginary friend when I was a kid, so I'm a weird person. But well, maybe I don't know. Maybe a lot of y'all had imaginary Star Trek character friends growing up. But anyways, Spock is one of my favorite characters. So anything that's new and delightful about him is really, really something that I enjoy. And I think in this episode, we definitely got to see some interesting perspectives from Spock. I like just how vulnerable he is, how interested he is in making his relationship work, and then fighting that with his kind of like love of duty and his love of the Federation and, you know, Starfleet, and especially. I liked that they brought up how he was kind of, you know, an alien among his own people, and how he was treated when he was younger, you know, how like his Vulcanness was always in question. If he made just like one little mistake, it was treated as like an accusation, basically, that he's not Vulcan enough or whatever. And then also On top of that, I think it's neat because for me, this is a wild idea, but I just keep imagining that the dream he had in the beginning was somehow influenced by his mind meld with the Red Angel, and that he might have little subconscious glimpses of things to come buried deep in his subconscious there. And so, even though the actual event will be him fighting Kirk, and Stan is the one that T'Pring chooses here, in this like setup that they did, it was him fighting a more Vulcan version of himself, which to me represented like Stan, and then Spock was the Kirk kind of thing that someone eloquently pointed out in our chats earlier. But yeah, I loved all that stuff, and I think it definitely enriched the character of Spock.
Definitely, and we definitely, as you said, had links to not only things that would have happened before in the timeline, such as the events in like Yesteryear, the animated series, of not just Spock being bullied for being half human, but also his bond with his pet sailor, Ichaya, which I thought was just like that little really nice.
Yes. You notice
aspect to
they
the episode.
acknowledge the change in the timeline, the change in Spock's timeline that occurs in Yesteryear is acknowledged within this episode.
Yes. Wait, as in, explain that.
Well, Chapel is talking about teenage Spock, and he said that he was comforted by his pet Ichaya. However, when Yesteryear happens and Spock goes back in time to save his child self, Ichaya dies prematurely.
Oh, yeah.
And end of Yesteryear, Kirk asks Spock, like, was history restored? Was everything put back in order as it should be? And Spock says, there was one difference, Captain. This time, a pet died. And the way, like, Leonard Nimoy delivered that line, he put, like, a lot of emotion into that, just in, like, that subtle Vulcan way, and it was really impactful. And I didn't even catch that until our friend Geek Filter literally wrote the book on the animated series. He pointed that out, so I thought that was like really cool that they acknowledged that. So that small little change in the timeline has not occurred yet, but will occur during the events of Yesteryear in the animated series.
Obviously, as Janeway said, I do not like to think about time.
But Aaron Harvey put out a really cool graphic illustrating this idea on his Twitter feed, so go check that out.
Go follow him on Twitter at GeekFilter and tell him that the boys at Trek Central said hi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And obviously not only looking at that past of Spock, but kind of Spock has these fears of not being accepted by T'Pring for his half-humanness and going through Cali-Fi. So it's really interesting to think, what was Spock feeling when T'Pring first, in the arena in the original series episode, she called for Cali-Fi? Like, was he then, his fears that are from this episode, plaguing him? Which I think is a neat thing to think about.
I wonder how typical that is to have the ritual combat at your Vulcan wedding.
Well, if they have someone who looks like an executioner always appearing at these things, it has to be pretty frequently. Though I really liked how they updated the look of the executioner in this episode.
Should have worn that mask for COVID. I should have had the
weird
mock time mask. Yeah,
that would have been
effective it would be. But
that would have been great.
It would have looked cool.
Would it have looked cool, or would it have just looked silly?
Or scary, depending on if you know the episode.
I think you can only get away with that mask if you're wearing a giant axe with it.
So you can open carry axes in Texas, though.
Oh man!
Wow.
All right, so Anson Mount took all the cast of Stranger Worlds axe throwing last night. Apparently, by the way, it was on Twitter. So, yeah, have you ever thrown an axe, Dom?
I have, actually. I have gone axe throwing, where you throw it at a target. It's very fun.
I did it once and the axe bounced and almost came back and hit me, which was horrifying. So I don't know if I'll ever do it again.
Talking about dangerous games, we have Una and La'an playing stun phaser dueling for Enterprise Bingo. So Enterprise Bingo was first introduced in episode 2, I believe, of Stranger Worlds. Yes. And then it was fully fleshed out here, where I don't know why they're calling it bingo when it's just a list of things
Right.
to do.
It's a
Maybe
checklist. It ain't bingo.
yeah, but
What was
Enterprise
the Bolian
checklist looks different. Ensign Zia was her name.
Zier, yeah, Ensign Zier even says we were on the final square. It's like you don't even have a bingo card. You just have like a checklist. We got the checklist from
the
your
check
quarters.
is a square, so
Yes, yeah, I guess that's what the final square means. And
so I wonder if it's like randomized or something. So everybody who does Enterprise bingo gets a different list of things, but it's always sign the score, just the end thing.
Or they're just using like outdated they're using bingo lingo.
Yes.
I like that, and
the
I like to
concept
think
of
that,
bingo was destroyed in World War III, so no one actually knows what bingo is anymore.
There you go.
Yahtzee,
I like to think of it like that, like the way that people talk about like iPods and Doctor Who being like a jukebox is an iPod, right? Like I like that idea that by the 23rd century, people don't actually know what these ancient games were, so they just like have a different idea of them, which is kind of
As
funny.
Joel says in chat, a single line can be bingo. It's just easy bingo. So yeah, but yeah, what did
One
you
thing
think?
about-
Oh, go on, Staffy boy.
Oh, I was just gonna say one thing about that whole sequence was that I would love to have a low-powered or low-setting phaser. What was that game in the 80s? Laser tag, like a phaser tag game on the Enterprise. I think that would be amazing. So I'm adding that to my bingo.
Yeah, and there's definitely some interesting things on that from change someone's medical tricorder to a Vulcan marsupial, which was in Voyager, yes, in Lifeline,
right?
Yep. Which obviously was pointed out to me by Jörg Hildebrandt on Twitter. So if you don't know him on Twitter, make sure you give him a follow because he goes way too in-depth on these episodes. Where you can see all the goodies from that to store a tribble in a pattern buffer, which just seems like painful. And eating a durian, I think, was one of them. I've never.
I don't know what a durian fruit.
I've never tried a durian.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that.
I feel like we should all try one now.
Yeah, our Enterprise bingo done.
I tried surströmming when I was in Sweden, and that almost killed me. So, about like these food challenges.
Just so that everyone knows, is that like rotted shark or something like that, or
it is fermented herring?
Oh, sorry.
And you have to open the can outside because the odor is so terrible. Like it's considered like extremely terrible manners to open it inside. And like as soon as you punch the can open, it's like the worst smell of your entire life is just like hitting you in the face.
I also learned that in the Nordic countries, it's extremely terrible manners to have food for guests.
Yes,
that
was going around Twitter. But talking about food for guests, we have T'Pring making a feast for Spock. Obviously, so we should go back a little bit. What was first introduced with Strange New Worlds was that it would be episodic, but we'd have these through lines throughout the series, things that characters go through in previous episodes don't get dropped. You know, O'Brien doesn't try to commit suicide one episode and then is perfectly fine the next episode, for example. So we have things carrying on. Now, obviously, we always go on about how, you know, the Enterprise is basically a character, and last week it kind of got its ass kicked by the Gorn. So now we're back at Starbase One, my favorite starbase, to recover.
Another character, right?
Yes.
Another character.
Because Starbase One, it's also mentioned in the opening personnel log for Spock that Starbase One was destroyed was damaged during the Klingon War. We see that in Discovery Season 1, I think the penultimate or final of Season 1, where it has some Klingon house scrawled all over it. And now it's been fixed, and it has these biodomes on it, which apparently have everything, including your favorite place to go fly fishing. But Spock and T'Pring are going to try and fix their relationship, because the last time that we saw T'Pring, Spock was like, "Oh, Pike just told me I'm gonna dip." So they definitely have some issues to sort out. But what did you think about T'Pring and Spock in this episode, specifically the acting of Ethan and Gia, however you pronounce her name.
Yeah, I think it's
Gia Sandu.
Gia.
Whenever we get a new actor in Star Trek, I always try to find an interview with them on YouTube, so I know how to say their name.
Definitely. But yes, what did you think?
She was fantastic in this episode. I was very impressed with her. I was glad that she was coming back because I really liked the Vulcan stuff in the series premiere, and I think that both the writing and the execution in that first episode did an amazing job of making the Spock T'Pring stuff both very sexy but also very Vulcan. Kind of a hard thing to balance,
yes,
probably.
Definitely.
Then with her coming back here, she is so great at playing Spock after they have their turnabout intruder body swap. At no point did I ever see her on screen and forget that it was Spock. I always was able to remember, oh yeah, that's Spock. I recognize Spock. And she, depending if you count the baby in the deleted scene in Star Trek 09, I think she is either the 9th or 10th actor to play Spock now.
Yes, which is a very interesting thing to
I
think
like
about.
that.
But you could definitely tell that Spock's mannerisms came through, as well as T'Pring's mannerisms with the weird, triangle thing that T'Pring does when resting, that Ethan Peck did in this episode, which I thought it was just really great, and they both did such a great job, even going to how I would say when Pike is standing up for Spock and being it's really worthwhile what he's doing. We take pride in what he's doing. And you can see the emotion from Spock, but you can still tell it's
from T'Pring. Right. It was Ethan Peck playing T'Pring in Spock.
And
I know from the Ready Room that they both did a lot of work together to make this, as good as possible. And I have to say that, they pulled it off. I think they're brilliant at it. It was cool that it was like the Freaky Friday thing, or Turnabout Intruders more, app perhaps, but it was really, it added to the humor, but it was also believable within the context of the Star Trek universe with Vulcans and their, mysticism and their mind, their katras and all that stuff. You could believe that there could be a Catrick mishap,
we
this
had
one,
seen this kind of stuff before, in the original series, and one of the Yesterday episodes, All Our Yesterdays, or one of those, but I get Yesterday, Tomorrow, Yesteryear, Return to Tomorrow. I get those mixed up in my head, but the one with the glowing orbs and Sargon, whatever it was.
What's that episode called? Yes.
But you see Spock transfer his mind there, so
that's right.
And obviously when he implants the katra in Dr. McCoy, and then you get kind of the McCoy Spock hybrid in Star Trek 3. So this idea of Vulcans being able to transfer their consciousness has been used before a couple times.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting that it seems that this particular one of partners sharing their souls and sharing their innermost thoughts seems to be quite a common practice.
He does it with Chapel, basically, in the original series. He possesses Chapel, right?
Oh, which episode's that?
Same one I was talking about with the glowing orbs.
Oh, I'll have to rewatch that episode because it's been a while. All I remember are orbs.
All our tomorrows.
For all of our yesterdays.
All of our yesterdays.
It was in season 2.
All of our tomorrows.
I'm sure someone can find it. The Risk is Our Business episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going to the theme of empathy, I thought it was also cool to see an alien form of empathy. A couple of examples of that actually, with the Rongovians as well. But not just seeing it humans empathize, but it was cool to see how Vulcans can empathize and they can go a step further. And then the Rongovians do what's called radical empathy. With their switching from one tone to another, like just by who they happen to be talking to, or one stance, I should say, to another. And I didn't catch this on the first time around, but like in subsequent viewings, like from the start, like the Rongovian captain is basically like emulating La'an when he first walks into the ready room, and then when he is talking to Pike, he starts to take on Pike's tone, and even like slaps his arm, at the end in a very friendly, human manner that you wouldn't expect, from the Rongovians. And then, of course, the more obvious examples later on. So I like that. And then, of course, the senior officers empathizing with the lower decks, and like, just, like there's just a lot of good different kinds of portrayals of empathy.
Yeah, it definitely went throughout the whole episode and reinforced the idea that the episode was going for. So I think the writing in that regard was very good.
Yeah, it had a clear theme. The idea that, for that communication to work, be it like in your relationship or someone you're trying to open up diplomatic communication with, or if you're trying to learn how to relate to the younger crew members, it's always kind of a two-way street, and you have to both put effort into communicating to the other party and also put effort into being receptive and listening to the other party. And all the storylines in this episode all kind of tied into that one theme.
Yes, definitely. That was just really nice to see from this episode. So I really did love it, and the Rongovians, like you said, were a very interesting alien to introduce. Extremely interesting that their territory is in between the Federation, the Klingons, and we get the name drop of the Romulans. And obviously,
they were biding their time.
They're biding their time, but they're still out there, and we still see a map of, this is where the neutral zone is. They are here. But what's really interesting is how, even on the map, you only see a couple of like green spots compared to the Federation, which has a lot of information on it, and then the Klingon Empire, which also has a lot of information on it. So I thought that was a very nice way to set the world where we know it should be.
Right, where they're not going to be as knowledgeable of what's going on within the Romulan Star Empire. No one even knows what a Romulan looks like or what their latest ships might look like. But I think
probably what even their flag looks like, because their symbol isn't even on that map. It just says Romulan.
No, it's going to have a bird on it, though.
Yeah.
So they could just have like a
random
they know
bird
it's up there.
Bird of prey, but yeah.
But whatever they're going to do with the Romulans, because they're going to use the Romulans eventually, I don't think they're going to be able to resist that. But I'm looking forward to whatever they do. I think, kind of like with the Gorn, how they never showed the Gorn. They were obviously trying to adhere to canon, and like have their cake and eat it too. I think there's going to be a similar effort with the Romulans whenever we get to the Romulans. I'm also really excited for whatever the show is going to do with the Klingons.
Yes, it does look like we are going to get Klingons. Maybe not this season, but it looks to be from Whisperings Online that we might get them in season 2. So it definitely will be interesting if they get Laurel back, like Mary Chieffo, or if she's been overthrown by like Sturka or whoever they want to make High Chancellor of the Klingons. We'll see in season 2.
Yeah, I mean, according to Mary Chieffo, she hasn't been contacted to show up in Strange New Worlds, but Jonathan Frakes was saying all the way up until like a couple months ago, like, I don't know what's going on with Riker. He's just like off cooking pizza in the woods. Like, I don't know what's happening in season 3. So, I mean, that was a lie. Jonathan Frakes finally learned how to keep secrets, I guess.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So
I think that people involved with the production of Star Trek, they don't lie the way we expect them to, but they lie in other ways. I don't know. I was trying to.
Well, yeah,
I forget what Spock says about lying.
Spock says in this episode, Vulcans do not lie, at least not in the way humans do.
Right, exactly. So production people don't lie, at least not in the way regular folk do.
I'm pretty sure Spock is going to lie to the entire crew of the Enterprise in a few years. And he says, like, T'Pring, I haven't seen her since I was 8 years old. Yeah, it's a line, but not in a way that humans do, I suppose.
Yeah. But what was really interesting with how they handled T'Pring was, I very much picked up that, the reason why Uhura is in the meeting scene with the Rongovians taking notes is because in the original series, she's like, oh, Mr. Spock, who is she? She's beautiful. When T'Pring appears. So I was like, oh, okay, that's how they're doing it.
We'll see if they ever have her on screen with T'Pring. I mean, they could always do like the mind meld, do the Requiem for Methuselah, like forget and erase T'Pring from Uhura's memory. That wouldn't be the last time her memory gets erased. So.
Yeah, and then I was watching some episodes mainly between Spock and Chapel recently from the original series, and it was interesting how in this episode Spock talks to Chapel, and Chapel's like, oh, call me Christine, and that's something that she'll still say in the original series when Spock's like, nurse. It's like, oh, call me Christine. We've known each other for 7 years at this point.
I gave you relationship advice for your fiance that one time, and you took it too far and swapped bodies, and then I had to help switch you back.
Yeah.
But that's also a Spock thing. Like, Jim's always having to say, call me Jim, like after his, like, Spock goes through these moods, I feel like. So maybe he could be just very like, sometimes he wants to be very, very Vulcan, and then other times he's in touch with his human side. And I think we're seeing that a lot more.
Thing. Have like a recurring gag of him calling her nurse, and then her being like, call me Christine.
Yeah, and
that way it kind of works out.
It is interesting how Spock, and especially like his relationships change, because obviously it looks like his relationship with T'Pring in this episode is going okay, but we know that it won't. We know that it will end up Spock keeps choosing duty over her, and she eventually has enough. Yeah.
I think things work out aces for him, right?
Yeah, but one thing I really did like about T'Pring in this episode was how it expanded on her character and actually gave her stuff to do, especially with her work on rehabilitating Vulcan criminals who just hang about in the park on the main starbase of the Federation.
Well, it like gave a lot of it confused me when I first saw it. Like, I didn't realize, like, I didn't hear the line about the uprising on whatever planet it was and stuff like that.
Kepler 22b, which is an actual planet.
Real planet.
Yeah, which is like 2 or 3 times the size of Earth, and is a ocean
Kepler planet. There's a Kepler planet on Discovery at some point, right?
Probably they do like
another one recently
mentioning Kepler.
Maybe Aaron McDonald is dropping in some real planets.
That would make sense.
That'd be awesome. But yeah, it confused me at first because I was like, and then I just started to think about it, and I was like, maybe the uprising wasn't like the issue. It was more like that what she does is like she takes these, like, they're Vulcan criminals, not necessarily criminals to the Federation, and that's why he's allowed to be on the starbase. But not only has he committed this, not only is, like, maybe uprisings are not treated the same as we treat them today. Maybe the Federation's more evolved by then, and they like see those kinds of things as like a sign that we need to change or do something about the way our system is over there, like, so that's resolved. But he's still a criminal to Vulcans because that's just outrageous for Vulcans.
It also
depends.
He was a
Vulcan without logic.
Yeah.
Like he's not only is he a Vulcan without logic, but he's outraged. Like, Vulcans would never like be the leader of an uprising, like, or anything like that.
It also depends how they view an uprising, as it could just be he stopped a certain like Vulcan colony from following logic, and that's like seen as, why would you do that?
That's a great point too. It might have been
the
like
Federation
very, like, mellow.
Doesn't mind because they're like, okay, you're nice people, you just voted to not follow a logic-based ideology, and the Vulcans like, you've lost all control.
Exactly.
It's
like
Lynn all over again.
It's still all over again.
And they're like, going for an
But
uprising.
that being said, that being said, this Vulcan was also just a douche in general. Like
Yes.
he was just awful. Like the
Yeah.
things he was saying and
Very
stuff like that were
racist.
very like yeah, very racist and yeah.
I have a theory about why Spock punched him like that.
Yeah.
And he's saying all those terrible things about humans and say like, oh, this human over here, Nurse Chapel, like she's not much more evolved than the apes that were her ancestors. Or like, whatever he's saying, just completely just dismissing her and giving Pring. It's really Spock, but he thinks it's T'Pring, like giving her a hard time about like, oh, you choose like a human companion, like what, and you're also marrying a half human, like what an insult to Vulcans and everything. And I think the reason why Spock lost his cool and punched the guy because he's heard all that stuff said about like his mom, his human mom, like all his life, and so he's got like those mommy issues, and that was like that was like the straw that broke the camel's back when he started like hearing those same insults thrown again.
Yeah, that would make
I
the most
adopt that
sense.
stance.
And,
Yeah, I like
would
that.
also reflect what we see in, like, Star Trek 2009, when, he's fine having it said about himself, but then the bullies start talking about his mom, and then he just punches them.
Right. How cool is it to see like T'Pring's job and to see like, oh, she's kind of
Yes.
a badass. She's like a Vulcan bounty hunter. She goes around like gets all like
Yes,
these criminals,
that's
and I like
In a
I like
weird
the
way.
idea of how they're focused more on like rehabilitation of these dangerous criminals, more than like punishing them. Like it's more important. Like we need to convert these people to be functional, productive members of society, which is how I think the justice systems in real life should work. And so
Yes.
I appreciate Star Trek.
Though it does depend
Only-
how Vulcans do that, because it could be, like, forceful mind melds to get them back
Sure,
Oh,
well,
God.
into logic.
before Enterprise came along, like Vulcans were considered like these very like ethical, highly evolved, occasionally snobby, but for the most part very good, noble beings. Then Enterprise came along and like now people think Vulcans are assholes, but no, it's only like in 3 seasons of Enterprise are Vulcans terrible. And then they
And
all
they
get
do
fixed
a
by
go-
Manny
they do a
Koto
good
in
job.
season 4.
They do a good job of explaining to, like you said, it gets fixed. Yeah, yeah. They did a good job, I think, of like explaining the
Showing
landscape
how it
and why it was
changes.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I was frustrated with that too, Father, when I was watching Enterprise. I was very frustrated with the portrayal of Vulcans because you're right. Even though I joke all the time that they are a-holes, they weren't before that.
Yes. They were just kind of
But this guy,
snobby.
this guy was an Enterprise Vulcan for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he's one of the Vulcans without logic from Fusion, like
Yeah.
that weird cult of kind of like hippie-ish Vulcans.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what they were called. But yeah, those ones. What I did like in that scene was in the background there was an Andorian and a Vulcan playing chess together, and I just thought that was really nice.
And
if
we
we're
almost
talking
saw
about
Telluride.
Enterprise, and we saw the back of a Telluride.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I really wanted to see like the Tellurite's face and a close up of one of the Endorians to see if they've changed anything from the Discovery designs.
Yes.
And they didn't show either one, but they teased both of them. So I think that before the end of the season, we will see a tweaked design of the Endorians and.
Well, we've
Tellurites.
definitely got the Anar with Hema having the Discovery Andorian styling on him with the slits down the cheek.
And the fixed antenna.
Yes. So I could definitely see them just doing a mixture of them. Because
Yeah,
I mean
some
we do
species
see
diversity.
classic TOS Enterprise style Andorians in Discovery. They're just in the background.
No, I think you're thinking of Picard season 1.
No. There were some in the Rebel camp in season 1 of Discovery in the Mirror Universe.
Okay. The
Ooh,
wolf inside.
excuse to
Yes.
rewatch. Nice.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't catch that. I thought they were all the spiky cheeked ones.
All the ones you really see on screen are the spiky cheeked ones, but the ones in the background are just normal Andorians.
Well, I don't
so yeah.
remember where we learned this, but Andorians may have 4 genders, so it's possible that the different
Yes.
looks are also
That's
in the
different
novels.
genders.
That's beta
Oh,
canon
okay.
stuff.
Troy
Yes.
said in Next Generation that an Andorian wedding involves 4 partners.
But talking about Andorians, Falamist in the chat mentions that we did not see Hema this episode. So what did you think Hema did on shore leave? Did he do anything, or was he just in engineering being grumpy, but no one was there to hear him? You know, it goes back to that philosophical question: if no one's there to hear it, is Hema grumpy?
I like
And
to
it's
think
yes.
that he went over to one of the other Constitution class starships that were
Yes.
docked at Starbase One to hang out with, like, or to check out what doing, to see if there's anything he could improve on Enterprise, or to gloat about how advanced Enterprise is and how great and finely tuned her systems are, and kind of critique those other engineers.
Yeah,
And damn it, I
definitely.
wish we had that on screen.
I think it should definitely be, you know, he walks into their engineering and just hears that, you know, something's
That
out of
variance,
tune.
the phase variance.
And he's like, oh, you should check this. You can get 0.2% more efficiency on your antimatter cooling, or whatever you might say. And they're like, oh my god, you can.
What if he's just like a party animal? What if he just went on like a rager and like I don't know,
Just
was
in the
like,
woods of one of the
he's like
biodomes.
running around in he had like a big keg party like in the woods, like just like woke up surrounded by a bunch of other people, like doesn't even remember the night before.
Definitely, I could definitely see him doing that. But another thing I liked, which I really hope was an intentional Lower Decks reference, was La'an talking about just being on the Enterprise and listening to the sound of the warp core, which obviously is what everybody on the Cerritos loves to do. It's just listen to the warp core and make noises.
Kind of wish they gave Leon and Number One a little bit more personality than just like, we just love work and don't care about anything else. Like,
Yes.
I know a lot of people are workaholics, but most people still have like other interests, and it kind of contradicted that short Trek Q&A where like, oh, like Number One has like this musical side. She loves singing that
No, but remember,
Gilbert
she
and
hides
Sullivan
it.
song
But
apparently.
she
But you would
hides
think that in her free
Yeah.
time she would like go embrace, like maybe she wants to go like I don't know, learn some new songs, or like go see a musical that is some production that's on Starbase One or something like that. And she's maybe trying to like hide it from people or something. I think that might have
What
been more
musical would she
interesting.
go see? Maybe Les Mis.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe some oh, maybe it's the Conscience of the King actors come
Yes.
through.
And they're
That'd
just
be
on
amazing.
Starbase One? Yeah.
That would be really funny. I was thinking, can I go on a tangent real quick, Dom?
Yeah.
So we were talking about The Way to Eden, and I would love to see us meet the Herbert that they based that Herbert thing on, like, because it's supposed to be an actual like
An actual person.
person, and
Yeah.
so I would love to see an episode where we meet Herbert, and he's exactly a Herbert, like his like that's what he's so awful, like that
Yeah.
that everyone's like, oh my gosh, like that guy Herbert, and then maybe they coin the phrase on Enterprise, or on the Enterprise, or on that episode. But maybe we, for some reason, we have Dr. Severin also. He's important and needs to do something to help out. But this is before he becomes a hippie and before he, becomes awful and stuff like that. So might be neat to see the return of that character. But definitely,
I
I
wouldn't
want
mind a
her.
name drop. Like
Yes.
name drop Sever. Hemmer
Yeah.
be like, oh, well, was designed by the technologist Severin or something like that. I think that'd be a cooler way of incorporating him. Like,
Yeah, or just
I don't want the
mentioning
small
other people
universe.
like Daystrom, but we don't,
Yeah.
like you just said, we don't need to see all these people, because then it'll be like, oh, this just feels really small.
You know, it makes the
Except
turn to the
Herbert.
other Star
Herbert.
franchise. Because
Yes.
like in the other Star franchise, there's only like 20 or 30 characters, and they all seem to live like 3 blocks away from each
Yep.
other, and they're always
Definitely.
like running into each other all the time. So I would love to avoid that, if at all
Yeah.
possible.
You guys talk about that as though it's a bad thing. No, I'm just kidding. I know it's not. It is. We want more universe. We want more universe. Speaking of which, an earlier point you were saying about the show and its attention to details and things like that. It's such a great show for world building already as well. Like just these locations, like seeing Starbase One, for example, like, and there were just like all kinds of nice little just details about, like, you can see the like the tube that connects to the
Yes.
solar the solar ship, like you can see the little yellow lights indicating that someone's heading back to the ship.
Could you?
As yeah, well, at
Oh,
least yeah,
okay.
it could be just me like stretching, but I saw the little yellow dots and I was like, oh, is that them
It
going,
is
back to
very
their ship?
detailed. I think one of the things that's really amazing is just how I think it more seems that it's these cost-effective ways to build this connectivity, such as using Starbase One. Obviously, they're using the model from Discovery, and they just added a bit to it instead of creating a brand new model. The fact that we didn't only get a Constitution in this episode, but we got another one, just to be like, oh, okay, there's another ship here. It's just the same model, but it could have been the Intrepid or the Excalibur or the Defiant or the Congo.
Yeah.
Which
Also-
might be lost since Spock had a little.
Well, I assumed that it more meant that you just know someone who died on that ship rather than just the entire ship is lost.
Something else that's really satisfying is that like Starbase One looks huge and impressive in the way that they photograph it and choose to display it, and I love the sense of scale that we get, because in Disco it looks like a little tiny CG model, like in the background.
It definitely
doesn't,
is smaller in Discovery than it is here, because you see ships next to it, and judging from the scale, it is a little bit bigger, and obviously it has the biodomes connected to it. But yeah, it's a nice thing.
I think the show handles scale really well in general. Like, I think there's and also the ships just seem more majestic. Like, I know folks are like, no, we don't need that naval, slow, ship, but I think this is a good balance. Oh, there's Starbase. You really love Starbase One.
Yeah,
look at that.
I do.
Awesome.
I want to update this model to have the biodomes on it, but the thing is, in Discovery, it has 8 ship ports, whereas in Strange New Worlds, it has 6 biodomes. So, angles and stuff.
Wow, very cool. But there were other things like that were also very immersive, which is like where the sun is in position in relation to Jupiter, and like the biodomes would sometimes be lit up and looking really bright, and then sometimes you would see the sun is on the opposite side and the biodomes look like they were nighttime. And I love those kinds of details. Like, it's like you saw the passage of time. Whether the time makes sense or not, it's a whole different thing. But regardless, there were indicators of the passage of time and things like that. So I love those little things and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they're definitely doing a really good job with the use of the AR wall in Strange New Worlds. I'd definitely say
they're doing an outstanding job.
Discovery Season 4 was doing a great job, but they've definitely learned a lot of stuff going into Strange New Worlds.
Discovery Season 4 got better. Like, starting off, all the use of the AR wall was kind of like they had the same 2 or 3 styles of shots, and they just always reused them. It's either like, hey, look, there's some real rocks and some real dirt, and then the AR wall is an extension of that, or it was always we're in a giant cavern, like the inside of they go in a comet in Season 4 of Discovery, actually, so these large cavernous spaces, but then later in the season they started doing more creative stuff with it. And I feel like Strange New Worlds owes a lot to Discovery for not only the development of Anson Mount's Pike and Ethan Peck's Spock, but also some of the special effects as well, because they're using this AR wall. I don't know how many shows have this technology. I know the other Star franchise uses it a lot,
and it was recently used in the latest Batman movie. I know that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But to me, Strange New Worlds, I think is using it better than anyone else.
Yes.
Because they've just done such a variety of things, and things you don't even expect are the AR wall.
Walking on the hull of the ship.
Yeah. That conference room, the Starbase conference room where they're meeting with the aliens, and you see the ships in the background.
And it works with going from engineering. It works with the handrail. And then in the conference room, it works with the guardrail as well, to show these great, massive areas. So yeah, they're doing a great job with not only the limitations of the AR wall, but using those limitations in a way that makes it work better.
Since we're talking about the visuals, Dom, can we talk about the sail ship, the solar
Yes.
sail ship? Like, I thought it was exquisite. I want that Eagle Moss model so bad. Like, and it better shimmer.
Hopefully it holds together better than the Bajoran solar sailor. I
Oh, are you
ordered
serious?
3 from Eagle Moss, and every one of them arrived broken. I finally just give me my money back. I don't think I'm gonna get one.
Sense. But yeah, it did look great, and it was an interesting premise in the fact that, you know, it's their flagship, but it's a ceremonial ship. And, you know, they bring it out for diplomatic and ceremonial reasons rather than it being, oh, this is the flagship of the fleet. It's the strongest ship. It's like, no, this isn't the strongest fleet, but it holds the most meaning for their people.
And it kind of
says something about their culture, too.
Yeah, they're kind of idiosyncrasies. I can't say that word, but
idiosyncratic. Yeah, idiosyncrasies. I think you said it right.
They're kind of bizarre aliens too, like in a good way. Like they're very alien. Like their look is weird, their behavior is weird, but you understand. You know, you can get them. You can figure them out. Like Pike figures them out.
And also, it's interesting that everything we know about them was kind of said in the first meeting. That they put on the flag of the people they've just signed a treaty with on their ship, and even the Rongovian specifically says at the beginning, empathy is a hallmark of our species, few understand that. And then you go to the very end and you're like, oh, that makes sense. That is who you're
nice note, because also that was an effective device. Like, kudos to the writers, because seeing that in the beginning, like, you're kind of wondering throughout the show, like, what's that going to look like? How does it look when they fly the flag? Or, you know, if they are going to, in fact, if these guys are successful. So as they're talking and you see the flag rising, like, it gave me huge goosebumps.
But
like, it was just,
did they have the flag prepared beforehand?
Yeah, like,
or did they really change it quickly?
100%. They fly in with the expectation of, like, we'll have it just in case.
No, that's not what it was. It was like Quark in Deep Space Nine, where he had like a Federation flag, a Klingon flag, a Dominion. He had like the flags for everyone, so that like whoever took over the station, he would be able to unroll the flag. I think that's what these dudes did. They had like a Romulan flag, they had a Klingon flag, they probably had like a Tholian flag in there, maybe a Gorn flag.
Yeah.
They also, what's cool is we did see the Rongovian flag. They fly the Federation one on top, bottom, and the Rongovian was one on the bottom, which was cool.
When the Admiral said that, though, and he's like, they fly the flag of whoever they make like a new alliance with, I'm like, okay, well, now I know how the episode's going to end.
Yeah, but
to me, it wasn't like a mystery of what it's going to look like. It's like, okay, it's going to be like.
It was just like, you know, that the writers made the character say that for the episode.
It's just satisfying is what it is. It's not that it was a mystery, it's just satisfying. The way that it was pulled off for me was very satisfying.
So yeah, talking about visuals and stuff, Thomas Hill in chat asks us if we've talked about the green tunic yet, which we haven't.
No, we haven't.
So we can talk about that now.
I love that. I want one. I need one.
Yes, I really liked it, but the one thing I was weirded out by, I guess, is the vinyl-like look on this, like, going down the arm, which I wasn't too keen on. But otherwise, also, I would probably also say Pike had, like, a black undershirt on it, whereas I think with Kirk and Archer, it showed more, like, chest. And, you know, not being weird, but I do want to see more of Pike's chest, so, yeah.
That's not weird at all.
Yeah.
That being said, I do love that version the most. I like that leather. That, to me, that leather detail is really great, and I want that. Like, I rarely.
Better.
Yeah, I rarely
it makes
like
it
have
more of a
wanted...
jacket than a shirt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. But like, I rarely have ever seen something that I want more. But I want the one that looks just like Pike's. Like, I don't want like something that has like silk instead of pleather or whatever. You know, like I want the same exact one. It's very cool.
If someone
and I wear it all the time. I'd even wear it to work. Like I would go out with it.
That also reminded me that I was kind of disappointed that when Spock was cut by Vulcan Spock, when human Spock was cut by Vulcan Spock, it wasn't in the same area that Kirk was cut on his chest, because we need to see more Ethan Peck's.
We did.
But,
you got massive Ethan Peck's. at the end of this episode, he was totally
Yes.
pecking out
Yeah.
at the very
But
end.
it was also
is it not
nice.
weird that he
Yeah, go
doesn't
on.
have a hairy chest like Nimoy?
Well, he still has time. He is still young.
I think T'Pring just likes the waxed chest, so I think he's just doing that for her.
Yeah.
Like after she leaves him at the altar, he's like, okay, I'm just going all natural now.
But it was nice also that when human Spock was cut, he was bleeding red blood. It's just like a nice thing you don't remember because you're just like, oh, okay, he's bleeding. But then you're like,
Right,
oh,
it
it's
looks
human.
so normal.
Yeah. Whereas if you see green blood, you're like, oh, it's Vulcan blood. But if you see normal blood, it's just like normal blood.
It's really cool.
It was also cool to see how much, even though it's subtle things like the eyebrows and the ears and the haircut, but when he's human, he looks so much more like just Ian Peck. And then you see you see that Spock is a pretty big transformation. Like, even though it's not something that you think about, like, for example, like a Klingon transformation, like, or whatever, but there's a lot going on. There's a huge difference in the way Ethan Peck looks as Spock. I think it's pretty cool that they were able to illustrate that by showing the two side by side.
Yeah. And I think I saw earlier on Twitter was that T'Pring's outfit in the nightmare scene was from a like fashion show, which it looks like that. And it was definitely
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It echoes the TOS version, but like takes it to that HD, level, like the more, like the more high production value of today, because TOS was high production value for its time, but today's production.
But then it also then
value.
makes sense that, in that scene in the nightmare, T'Pring's wearing more clothes, I would say, befitting a like wedding scene than when we get into the arena where she's more in like normal clothes.
Time.
So yeah, that was just a nice extra thing.
The way that they redid all the visuals there, I loved everything. I loved how they still had like the red sky. They still had a lot of the exact same things, like the gong, that little pit,
the little hammer thing with the green rock on it as well.
Even like some of the camera shots were similar. The music, oh my god, we didn't talk about Nami's score, but
which is
that
amazing.
was fantastic.
Beautiful.
Very, very faithful, and it still worked effectively. Like, I think even if you have never watched the original series, you never saw Cable Guy or Futurama or any of the thousand things in pop culture that have homaged that music,
yes.
I think it would still work here, because the way that it plays now is very like surreal and strange and kind of unnerving, which is exactly what that sequence would be going for. So I think it is very, very effective.
I don't think
that
it was
one of. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, is that one of the Fred Freiberg scores or the Alexander Courage? Oh, okay.
No, that was Freiberg.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Dom. Carry on.
But not only did we get, that great Star Trek sound, but I would also say a lot of the music that played during Pike defending Spock and then Pike talking about his hunch, and it's a pretty good hunch, was amazing and really beautiful. And I think Nami Melamed just did an excellent job there.
The motif she
has
uses,
been great.
I'm gonna call it, I don't know what it is, if it's a Pike motif, or I'm just gonna call it like the heroic moment motif, but that da-na-na, like that, what you're talking about when he was speaking, and at the very end as well, like that's such a beautiful the victory thing. I love that. So I find myself humming that when I do something cool. Like, it's like I hear it in my head. So yeah, I'm so excited about the release of that score whenever it comes out. I love the Star Trek Prodigy score as well. So she's quickly become one of my favorite composers.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, we are reaching the hour mark of this. So I'll ask all the people in chat if you've got any questions for us about this episode, or just want to mention something which we might have missed, let us know. But have either of you looked at what we are getting next week in the title, which I forget the name, but it's a really beautiful name for next week's episode. It's a really long name.
Ooh, like
I have it somewhere.
Here, let's find.
Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach.
Ooh,
is the title. So I think it's definitely, if you've seen the trailers, going to feature the planet where it's like a sky city above like a volcanic planet, which probably goes into this idea of lift us where suffering cannot reach. But yes.
That's why. That's cool. I'm starting to understand why Father was saying that's gonna be tied into next week's TOS discussion. That's cool. I haven't seen it yet.
Are you doing Cloudminders next week?
Yes, we are. That's weird.
The last time we saw cities floating in the clouds.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the other Star franchise.
Okay, so
cool.
Bilkle asks, is Chief Kyle really mean? Now, I know Chief Kyle is one of your husbands, Starfleet Boy. So,
yes.
Is he mean?
He's not mean. He tries to be fun and sassy, and it comes across as mean to insubordinates. But he's trying really hard. I have made him aware of his tone, though, and that some cadets and ensigns believe him to be mean. So I think it's something he's going to be actively working on, maybe behind the camera, but he'll be doing it in the next few episodes.
Did they outrank him?
So yes, they do, because he's just a chief, so they technically do outrank him.
Yeah, they're officers.
But I feel like it's the same situation with like
Kaplan.
O'Brien, as in he can still order ensigns around even though he's lower than them on DS9. So I think it's that sort of situation where if you get assigned to the transporter rooms, you can be bossed around by Kyle, but every other situation, you can boss around Kyle.
Also, remember that Starfleet resembles modern-day Earth-based militaries, but it's a different kind of military altogether. I'm not saying it's not a military. I'm just saying it's a military that's like...
That is still how enlisted
and
non-enlisted people.
Yeah, it still depends on if the writers understand that or not, because sometimes they adhere to it, and sometimes they don't.
Daniel CEO says... I'd love it if Kyle said polarize those EPS conduits or I'll keel haul you. I mean, technically you could keel haul someone on the Enterprise, but I don't think it works like that because there's not like barnacles to hurt you.
Well, Domino's is sailing. There's a story. The Enterprise has a keel though, right? Scotty refers to the keel.
It would still be the keel of the ship.
Yeah.
So you would just be dragged along the bottom of the ship. Oh, that's something we didn't mention, which we might as well mention. It's the signing the Scorch, the oldest panel on the ship, being in the exact place that got blown up. Yes. So did they go and recover it?
Obviously reattached that panel.
I suppose it does have like sentimental value, and it's like probably a tradition to still have it on the ship and not replace it.
And I wonder what earned it the name the Scorch, because it's scorched. So maybe that earned it the name Scorch because it got scorched in that explosion or something.
But then if that's the reason,
Goldsman's name on there.
I did not know.
And then someone else wrote LLAP.
Oh,
Long and Prosper.
I forgot to do mention of that. Thomas Hill asks, why does Chapel have full commander strips on, I guess, her cuffs, if she is a civilian? That's a good question.
Means something else for her.
Yeah, because she's just on loan from whatever bio-research school she was from.
They're getting their ranks and their rank braids on their sleeves kind of mixed up, though.
Yes.
Like, all the lieutenants have lieutenant commander stripes. It's interesting.
It's just a mess. Yeah. But it's as interesting as it's always been. I would say. So
I bet you they
Yes,
fixed that
the
for
the
season
original
2.
series, the original series had Spock go from lieutenant commander to commander, and this braids on his sleeve never changed.
yeah.
So
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
maybe those mean
They don't
something
care.
else. We just assume they mean your rank. I don't know.
This is what I'm saying. This is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and we never know her rank in TOS either. Yes, though it is
Chapel.
Chapel, yes.
We know it in the motion picture though. She's a lieutenant, right? When she's a doctor, when she's a MD.
Yes, because Spock's like, I don't want to work with a doctor, blah, blah, blah. And then we do
Boy,
see
is
her
that
rank in... Yeah, that's what I meant. And then I guess we do see it in one of the Monster Maroon movies. I'm trying to remember which one.
Star Trek 4.
Yes,
She's at
thank
the
you.
HQ.
Yeah.
I think she's a commander there, but I could be mistaken.
I think she is. That sounds familiar. But also we have... She's not part of Starfleet yet, and she only joins Starfleet when Roger Corby goes missing, which is another thing we have to talk about before we end up. So it seems like you want to talk about Corby, so how about you go first, Fafri?
Yeah, because there was some interesting stuff on Twitter from Akiva Goldsman. I'm trying to look up the actual tweet right now, if you don't
Trekkie
mind.
Bill on Twitter said something to the effect of like, "There's a bunch of people wondering what's the deal with Roger Corby at this time."
Yeah,
or
I have it
whatever.
right here.
And Akiva Goldsman was like, "Stand by," or something like that.
Yeah,
And he never
so-
answered. He actually doesn't go on social media often, so that was cool
Yeah.
that he was on and he answered that.
Yeah, it's very rare to hear something from Akiva Goldsman on Twitter. So yeah, he was responding to that though. When Trekkie Bill posted, "Somewhere a Trekkie about my age or older is very mad there was no mention of Roger Corby," and then Akiva Goldsman replied, "Stand by." So there is Roger Corby coming. When Chapel does end the episode talking about how like maybe she would be honest for the right guy, and then she's kind of holding something back. I think she's probably talking about Spock, like she's like maybe like catching like sincere, legit feelings for Spock. It's not just like cute flirtation. She's actually starting to fall in love with him. And then maybe when Spock rejects her, or maybe she views Spock as unavailable because he's with T'Pring or whatever, but maybe that makes her like run off to Roger Corby, and we'll have Corby introduced at some point very soon.
Yes. Who
It'd
is
be
there
interesting
anybody you'd like to be recast as Corby?
I don't have any opinions on it. He's
Yeah.
such like a
Bland.
yeah, he's a
person.
little bland and generic. I mean, he's interesting in his role in that episode, but they don't really need to. That episode didn't require a deep, fleshed out character. So I feel like kind of like with Chapel. I felt like with Chapel, yeah, they can kind of do whatever they want with her because we never get depth with Chapel in TOS. So I think they had the freedom to write that character however they wanted, and people are loving what they're doing in Strange New Worlds. So I think they have similar options with Corby. They can kind of just do whatever they want as long as he ends up off on a android planet. I think that was XO3, right? But
I believe
as long as he ends
so.
up at that planet, messing around with androids and becoming an android himself, then yeah, do whatever you want with him.
So when
I think they
I
should
watched that
cast
end
Charlie
scene,
Hunnam.
I do not know who Charlie Hunnam is. You'll have to send me a picture.
Yes, you do.
Do I?
He's the I don't know if I don't know if you know, but he was he was made famous for the Russell T Davies Queer as Folk series. He
I
was
haven't
the young
seen
teenager.
that
You've never seen that?
series.
Okay, and then
So-
he's also on Hell on Wheels, and he played Nicholas
Have not
Nickleby
seen that either.
in the version with Jamie Bell,
So I do not.
which is my favorite.
Do you think you would get good Star Trek actors from Hell on Wheels? I mean, come on now.
Yes.
Like, what good ever came from that show over to Star Trek?
Definitely. And
Oh
he was
wait, no,
apparently
sorry,
in
not
Pacific
Hell on
Rim
Wheels. He's
as
in the
well.
other one.
Sons
Sorry,
of Anarchy?
Charlie Hunnam's in the other Sons of Anarchy. Thank you. Yeah,
Yes,
and
I
he's in
was
Pacific.
That's
Flavor
like a whole
Check and
different
Admiral
show.
in chat.
I chose him because I think he could go head to head with Ethan Peck in terms of like peckitude as well as like just handsomeness in general. Like I feel like and then he could also pull off that kind of like the guy you want to nab thing. So Charlie Hunnam, if you're listening to this, which you probably are, you should play Corby on Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
But yeah, when I watched the scene with Erica and Chapel at the Starbase One restaurant area, I more felt that the thing she was holding back was that she's already engaged to Corby. And that he's already gone missing, and it's just the fact that he was still sending messages out, but his last message was sent in 2262, I believe. And that's the reason why she can't get into a committed relationship, because the last relationship she was in, the guy
She's
was
on
like,
hold.
I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna go somewhere and not tell anyone. And she was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that
It could definitely go both ways. I could definitely see either the thing she was not telling Erica and was like, no, don't worry about it, was it could either be, oh, I'm getting feelings for Spock, or, oh yeah, I'm actually engaged. So
that's rad. I like that
they
a
could
lot.
do it both ways, and it's very much that case of, you know, even though you've got this one fixed plot point, there are many ways to go about it. Whether, oh, okay, like you said, Spock says, yeah, I'm with T'Pring, I don't want to go out for you, and then she goes with Corby, or she's already with Corby, and it's the reason why she can't get into a relationship.
It would explain her angst or discomfort as well, which I think is present in the performance. So yeah, I think that's really great. By the way, our Flavor Check says, if Charlie Hunnam plays Corby along with Chapel, my TV will explode. Yes, that's the point.
I don't know who that dude is, but yeah,
he's
I'll
excited
look
for
him
that.
up.
That's all I gotta say.
But yeah, Thomas Hill says Kirk said it has been 5 years. Yes, I just watched that half an hour before the stream, and he was like, oh, his last message was 5 years ago, and I believe that was in 2266, so it would have been 2261.
Could have.
Well, it was season 1.
It was in the first half of season 1, so yeah, 66.
66.
Yeah.
So he's been gone since 2261. So we could get that happen in hopefully season 3 of Strange New Worlds, where Chapel sees the last message of Corby.
That'd be cool.
Very
That'd be cool.
interesting.
But, you know, I would love if they would explore like some non-monogamy in Star Trek. I think that's an area they still haven't like gone into too much. I'm convinced that Troy and Riker practice some form of non-monogamy. I think they're in kind of open relationship during most of the Next Generation. And then obviously in their marriage, they're open to other. They're talking about like what Horgon are they going to bring to Risa? So
True.
So I mean, I think that's something that Trek has prided itself so much on, you know, the infinite diversity and infinite combinations, that yeah, like let's see some non-monogamy going on in Star Trek.
Yeah, definitely. And with that message, I think it's time to wrap up this stream. So thank you very much for everybody in the chat, for being as active as you are, for our 2 new members, Saint and Flavor Check, Jill. So thank you very much for joining the membership of Trek Central. Remember, you have some amazing custom-made Trek-themed emojis, which actually, do I have them? Yes, I do. I'm going to post them now in chat.
Ooh.
There's some great ones there. And yes, do you want to sign yourself out and say where people in chat can find you both throughout the next week while we are not having Trek Central until next Sunday?
You can check out Starfleet Boy on Twitter and YouTube. On Twitter, we do a Thursday night Twitter Spaces called Strange New Spaces. And then on Friday nights, we're talking about Obi-Wan from the other Star franchise on YouTube. And then on Saturdays, we do TOS, and Sundays, we do this. So we're very excited. Oh, and a Strange New World stream of our own. But yeah, we're excited to have all this fun talking about Star Trek with all y'all.
Yes.
And people can keep up with me on Twitter at TXTrek, or you can catch the live Text Trek show on YouTube every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central. We do a very deep dive discussion on the latest episodes and try to go in and analyze every scene, every Easter egg, every continuity connection, just comb over all that stuff. You can also listen to that show wherever you get your podcast, and I have links in the chat to subscribe to both Text Trek and Starfleet Boy, so please give us a subscribe and check out our content on those channels.
Yes, definitely. And we always love both of you joining me or Jack or whoever hosts the stream to talk about all the new Trek stuff. If anyone is interested, we have a new video which I think came out earlier today about the Borg busters of Starfleet. So looking at all the Starfleet ships which are designed to combat the Borg. But I've been Dom Paris. You can find me at Dom D Paris on Twitter, or I write scripts for videos here. So we hope you had a great time watching this stream, and as always, live long and prosper.